I manage the Sustainable Energy Communities Programme in SEAI and have done since 2015. It originally emerged out of a European research project to collaborate with local authorities to identify opportunities to reach our future energy targets ahead of schedule, and really to showcase what could be done and to make those learnings available more widely. So it kind of maintains a lot of that ethos still, but working with communities very specifically, rather than just with local authorities, although we do work alongside local authorities as well, and we're delighted to. So we have a definition of a sustainable energy community as one of a group of people working together for the wider benefit of their community, and they do it by being energy efficient first, looking for renewable energy opportunities, and then to adopt smart energy solutions where appropriate. So whilst that definition has been in place for over 10 years, it's been very useful, and it has kept pace, I suppose, with the various policies that have evolved around it. It's by no means perfect, but it has worked quite well to test out different projects and see do they fit into that very broad definition. And it's also proven very adaptable. And our programme itself is there to engage and enable the energy citizen. So we're not there to tell you what to do. We can show you what your opportunities are and then support you in realising those ambitions. I have a small team here in SEAI. I have two colleagues, Avril and Susan. So we can adapt very quickly. And an example of that would be, I suppose, when COVID kicked off, I really struggled to see how our programme could survive at a time when we couldn't go out and meet people, because that had been our model of operation. So we pulled together a technical workshop very quickly, and we had 600 sign-ups to that from the April of COVID. So it just showed people were still interested, people wanted to learn more, and there was a thirst for it. So we rolled out, I think, 12 workshops over the first 12 weeks, which took its toll, but it was great to see that interest and that people were still involved. And the sign-up of SECs maintained itself steadily through COVID, and we all very much changed our processes and methods of that. So if you haven't heard of us before and you don't know if there's an SEC in your area, the SEI website has a map of over 700 communities all across Ireland. Find your nearest one, see if they're open to having more people join up. They nearly always are. If there's none there, it's really easy to sign up. Our network is a non-legal requirement. It's there as a peer learning network. Once you sign up, we'll assign you a mentor and they can guide you through the process. You're not required to take any steps. We're very much working with you at the pace that you're willing and able to move along. So we also provide 100% funding for energy master plans. So that ranges between €10,000 and €25,000, depending on the influence of energy spend within your community. We also have loads of different training and networking services at a regional and national level. If you're stuck or bored at a time, there is an SEAI channel on YouTube, and we've lots and lots of community videos on there. There's lots of training resources for everything. We have an energy academy that's entirely free, where you can go in and learn about different aspects of energy. It's typically geared towards businesses, but there's nothing in there that wouldn't work from a community perspective in terms of gaining knowledge, and you do get a certificate at the end of it as well. So it can help for those that really want to get under the hood of the various energy aspects. So given that I was asked to look at challenges and opportunities and discuss them here, what I'd say in terms of the opportunity, the extent of the ambition we encounter on a daily basis from the communities is so incredible. And really the biggest challenge is, where do they start? And what they come to us and go, what do I start with? How do we mobilise? And really they already have by the time they come to us, but it's reaching that ambition, and then how do they engage their wider community? So we normally have a subcommittee of very committed individuals, and they want to bring the whole community along with them. So areas where we've seen asks for support around social media skills. Communities have such wonderful storytelling ability. It's which platforms work best to engage their wider community and bring people along. Those of us in the energy and climate space are usually quite committed, and sometimes it can be difficult to understand how other people aren't as interested in some of these topics as we are. So it's finding different ways of engaging people around areas that interest them. And then really building partnerships in different sectors. Communities are brilliant at building partnerships at a local level, but when it goes to trying to bring in businesses or maybe public sector bodies that might be in their area, there can be a bit of a struggle there. How can they then manage expectations of their community when that ambition is set? It can be difficult to say, well, we know that's the ambition, but this is what's possible. Understanding the responsibility of participating in various grant programs and what's the right level of risk for a community to take on. then dealing with something goes wrong or progress isn't exactly as expected can be a huge challenge. I would work quite hard on my colleagues in saying that, you make a mistake on a commercial project, you can change jobs. If you make a mistake at home, you have to leave your house. So it's a much bigger risk to take on as a community member, and understanding, not saying anyone has to move house. I'm just saying that that's the level of engagement and personal risk people can encounter. We're not evicting anybody. But it's just knowing that that's important, that people carry that with them, that it's there every day. So then looking at the huge amount of policy and funding streams that are available and how the landscape keeps changing and different deadlines and different rules. And honestly, I could spend the rest of my life trying to catch up on all the different funding streams that are out there, and then understanding the different cocktail requirements of what money can be combined with what money at what percentage under what state aid rule. And it's very, very challenging. And if it's challenging for me and I'm paid full time to be in it, I can only imagine how difficult it is for somebody who steps into it on a part-time basis. So we really have to work hard at a national level to make that much easier for communities to participate. Then building the knowledge base and then keeping that knowledge locally. There's a huge temptation to send in experts, deliver something and then move on. But we really want to embed knowledge in a local community and make sure it stays there. So how do communities get access to financial and technical expertise? Balancing the administrative burden, which I know is created in the most part by organisations like myself, but it's not being ignored. And then the balance of having a community engaged and enabled ahead of interventions and supports versus providing supports to a non-mobilised group. And we've seen differences in that, and that we've done research around providing energy master plans to communities that don't have a structure to see if that would mobilise them, and it didn't. So the huge value of having a community that is engaged and open to be approached with different programs is fantastic. There's the Future Community Benefit Funds. This year, my colleague in the Community Energy Grant has about €60 million in capital funding available. The National Retrofit Ambition is the department in which we both work, and that's moving towards spending about €2 billion in 2030. So about half of that between fuel poor homes and the rest on private homes. So that scale of ambition at a national level absolutely requires communities to be there and to participate. Just to say, I noticed one of the questions coming in, there is a support scheme there for energy audits that was introduced last year. So any organisation that spends more than €10,000 per year can get access to a €2,000 voucher to get an energy audit done by a consultant. So that could help some organisations involved here today. Our Energy Master Plan can support doing local audits as well, both on homes and in business and not-for-profit. So there's a good balance there, and that could include the home energy assessments for the new one-stop shops as well. So hopefully that can help some communities out there. We're doing about 50 Energy Master Plans a year, but that's not a limit. It's just our target. So if there's more there, we're happy to support it. It's the match funding component that our communities mostly struggle with. We would give between 30 and 50% typically for community projects, which leaves quite a gap to be closed elsewhere. And like that, we would have a regular newsletter out to our community. So if we become aware of anything, we would immediately let them know. If there's something that's short term, we have a hub where we can let the mentors know on a live basis of every information that came in, news, links to funds that have come available. So we work that way, but I would say we get at least as much from our mentors and our communities as we hear at a policy level. So it's just trying to keep that conversation moving all the time. And then events such as this, we hear about other programs that are out there that could be of interest to communities. So it's constantly making ourselves available to participate in wider events, to hear about other stories and see what can come from it. We brought in an approach about 18 months ago with local authorities where we have a memorandum of understanding, and what they do is they actually fund the Energy Master Plan directly and we pay the local authority, which means the communities themselves don't have to access the money in the interim. So it's amazing. It's in about 20 local authorities and we're hoping to get the rest of them on board. And it's a really good example of partnership between local authorities and communities. It also gives local authorities access to the data, which means it can help inform their own local climate action plans and decarbonisation zones. So it's a really positive partnership approach. And it's, I suppose, a tiny bit of innovation to overcome a bureaucratic process, asking communities to pay up front and then we pay them retrospectively, which I think we need to try and move away from and start giving more upfront funding. We have it in our bank account. It seems unreasonable to be asking communities to do something that is, very difficult for them and could be a reason why they don't participate. So yeah, it's just chipping away at those things and then looking at ways of bundling opportunities for funding. And In the next year, I'd like to see us partnering with some other government departments to see can we co-fund at source rather than asking communities to come to apply to multiple funds and see what comes of it. We'd love to see use at a local level too. We're not the gatekeepers of that particular data, unfortunately, but there is really good information there now with the likes of building energy rating data at a mapped level, and we're down to energy use at a county level to help support the local authority dashboards and stuff like that. So I'm hopeful we're moving in the right direction on that. I think in terms of supporting communities' choices, the energy master plan process that we have involves a register of opportunities. So that register of opportunities sets out the relative merits in energy terms of payback periods and investment costs. And much as what Pat would be saying, that there might be certain passion projects that drove the original bringing together of a group of people with an idea. We're not saying the idea is good or bad. We're putting it in relative terms to other projects that could be done at a local level, and maybe even just an order in which they're done. So sometimes insulating the school is a lot more effective than a solar PV farm further away from the community that may take a lot longer to deliver. And it's not saying what can and can't be done. It's just putting them in relative terms to each other, and then presenting that back to the wider community to see which ones are likely to get buy-in and support. I think as well, there's an element of why a project is done and why a project is done for other reasons. So it's potentially a lot of community renewable projects could help realise other ambitions that may not have paybacks within timeframes that are commercially viable, but are warranted by the community. So, doing a project like this can be how you achieve something else. It may not be an end in itself. So I think that's important too. On retrofit and participating in community energy grant, the current pathway typically for community looks like they'll engage a professional project coordinator who runs projects on a regular basis, who'll bundle up some aspects of what that community wants into a wider project and deliver it. That can mean the community loses control of the elements of which projects go forward, because the commercially minded project coordinator needs to know that they're going to cover their costs. So they'll pick the ones most cost efficient to deliver. So it's less than ideal, but it's the pathway in. And then on the community energy generation side, we've a panel of trusted advisors available to give them advice, and we have a targeted action grant to de-risk the pre-construction costs. So we certainly don't have the construction cost side covered yet, but we have de-risked up to 80% of the pre-construction costs element. So helping to bridge that gap, but it is what I would consider the number one critical issue on our programs is trying to get communities over that.